The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening. Everyone is shaped by their experiences, and this is particularly true for a child who has been bullied. What is bullying? It's a negative behavior intended to frighten or cause harm, whether it's verbal, written, or physical. Hi, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and this week on Hampton Roads, we're going to talk about bullying and children and what we can do about it. What are the unique challenges of a child who has been bullied? What are the characteristics of a person who is considered a bully? And what can we do about it? We'll talk about this and a lot more next. Bullying and children on Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. Today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about bullying in children and what we can do about it. All this month, the month of May, we've been talking about different aspects of parenting and children. And today we decided to wrap up the entire month in a conversation with bullying. It's such an important topic, and you hear about it all the time. And we'll look at how bullying is defined. We'll talk about the resources that are available in our area and other areas. And then we'll have our guest experts online as well. So don't forget our number. We'd love to hear from you, 823-9110, 823-9110. Call in with your questions. Are there unique challenges of children who have been bullied? Are there characteristics of a person who's considered to be a bully by various standards? And do you know anyone that's been bullied? Give us a call, 757-823-9110. On the line, we have our first guest. We have Ms. Shante Miller. She's the founder and CEO of Parents Against Bullying Virginia. Ms. Miller, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And in just a moment, we'll be joined by Dr. Ed Bell. Dr. Ed Bell is on the line. He's an author, researcher, opinion writer, poet, and educated licensed school counselor. Dr. Bell, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. Now, this is, as I've said a couple of times, it's such an important topic because if you think about how bullying has escalated or how it is seen these days with technology and so forth, and we think about kids getting out of school but then going back to school, it's such an important topic. So thank both of you for being here today to really discuss this. So, Ms. Miller, let me ask you just to start out with telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Ms. Shante Miller. I am the CEO and founder of Parents Against Bullying and also the author of Let's Push, a Guide to Combat Bullying as well. I started Parents Against Bullying because one of my twin daughters was brutally attacked by her bully in 2012, where she was kicked in the head for a total of 17 minutes by her bully. And from that, I stated that I never wanted a child or a family to be left alone because in 2012, we really didn't talk about this topic of bullying. So that's what brought us where we are here today.
Amazing. And we'll get to your story in just a moment. It is definitely compelling. Dr. Bell, tell us, please, a little bit about yourself.
I am Dr. Ed Bell. I'm a parent educator as well as a former school counselor working with families and youth in various communities across the state as well as out of the state.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And that piece as a former licensed school counselor and a parent educator really brings this topic full circle with your experiences. So let's first start off, Dr. Bell. I'm going to start with you. Tell us what bullying means. I want to make sure that we lay that foundation to be sure that we're all on the same page. How would you define bullying?
For me, it's pretty much an inappropriate and disturbing and can be a daily behavior on someone who bullies in school, out of school, in home, in the communities, and it forces people to make those threats and spreading the rumors, those that attacking someone physically, verbally, that leads to someone being ostracized from groups or as well. So there's a million ways to define it, but I think for me, that's pretty much what I have seen and witnessed in my work.
And it does say, as I was preparing for the show, it did give us some some types of bullying, such as you've mentioned, verbal bullying, social bullying, then there's physical bullying, and then there's cyber bullying, which is really something we need to talk about. So physical bullying. So Ms. Miller, as the CEO of one of your organizations, Parents Against Bullying Virginia, please continue to tell us the story so our listeners have an opportunity to hear why this means so much to you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, briefly, my daughter is a twin, and the twins were talking amongst themselves in regards to what had been going on with this young lady who was messing with my daughter, hitting her books down, tripping her in the hallway, talking about her, and this continuously kept doing this. We did notify the school, let them know about what was going on, and they continuously still put this young lady on the bus. And on that particular day when she was on the bus, when the bus took off from the school, this young lady proceeded to start to punch my daughter, put her in the headlock and start punching her in the head. And my daughter got wiggled away from her and buried herself up underneath of the seat. And I'm giving you the fast version. Buried herself under the seat where the young lady continuously kicked my daughter in the head. She stopped at one point, and some of the kids offered her 25 cents to start back up so that they could record it, to video it, to put it on social media.
Wow.
So which made it a total of 17 minutes that my daughter was kicked in her head by her bully. And like I said, my daughter was born with epilepsy, and she was 3 years free of seizures. And on that day, those seizures started back up, and she had them for almost 2.5, almost 3 years, for 5 out of 7 days a week after this attack. So this is very near and dear to me, to where I know there's so many mothers and fathers and families that have lost their children due to attacks or from the kids going through bullying and killing themselves. And so therefore I know that I have to continue to push, because my daughter's life was saved so that we can save someone else's life.
Now, did the piece that you mentioned, and we will talk about this a little bit later in terms of, you said you notified the school and indicated to them what was going on, but did the bus driver think to stop the bus and go back there and stop the fight?
No, ma'am. They continuously kept going. Went from stop to stop, because my daughter's stop was about 20-something minutes long from the school to where we used to live. So, yeah, the only stops were the regular stops.
So what, Dr. Bell, what can cause, and I know I'm asking a very general question, but what can cause a child to, first of all, become a bully, and then we'll look at to be bullied? So are there characteristics in the home? Are there psychological or mental behaviors or effects that will cause a particular child, as Ms. Miller said, to attack another child?
It could be a whole host of things, as you said, very broad. Most importantly, it could be something that's environmental. So if the child himself who's doing the bullying could have been bullied him or herself. So certainly we cannot dismiss the environmental factors that causes one to bully. So that's quite unfortunate. And for those who do bully, you have to look at their antisocial personality, what is going on with them. But at the same time, if my child is being bullied, I am at that time concerned about my child being bullied, as opposed to what other mental health challenges or personality challenges that the bully is going through. So we all are suffering, but my child suffers because as a parent, I am concerned about the suffering for my child when he or she goes to school to feel here come this bully is going to pick on him or her for whatever reason. But at the same time, the bully has issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
There's some concerns that the bully is going through. Perhaps the bully is projecting something he's feeling or something he is being through. And so we have, on the both sides of that spectrum, we have kids, and we're talking about kids, adults bully too.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're talking about people who are bullying at the end of both spectrum. And so unfortunately, that innocent person, that child or that adult who's just trying to mind or live the way they want to live, is now being confronted with the issues that their bully had.
I'm fascinated when you say environmental factors or causes. Let me pause for a moment and give out that number. 757-823-9110 is the number to call. We're talking about bullying in children. Were you bullied as a child? Are you working in the school system and you see this? What resources have you found that are helpful for families and individuals? 757-823-9110. So, Dr. Bell continues. So, environmental causes or factors is that a broken home? Is that drugs in the home? Is it abuse? Abuse? Define that just a little bit.
Yes. It could be all of the above that you have said. And just think about, I'm reflecting on my growing up, the picking and the teasing that we do at cookouts. Now, we may take that as cute, but just think about if we all reflect back at that little boy or that little girl who's sitting quietly for whatever the reason may be, as the adults are beginning to tease them, to say things to them, or to punch at them. That's bullying. And so when the child grows up and the child sees that, then why can't I do the same thing when I see someone else?
Ms. Miller, go ahead, Dr.
That's it. So it's a lot of environmental factors, and sometimes those factors are very innocent, because we think and we have those cookouts and kids and our family members are being picked on and teased, it's a laughing matter. But we're cultivating an atmosphere of bullying.
Ms. Miller, when does it cross the line? Okay, we all tease sometimes, and we have been teased. But when does it cross the line to bullying?
Well, when that person tells you to stop, or if you see that that they're starting to look uncomfortable with it, you need to stop at that point. Because of the fact that they're giving you that, even if they don't say it out loud, they're giving that body language that this is uncomfortable to me. Because not all children or not all people will speak up for themselves at that point,
right?
Or may not ever speak up for themselves. But if like I said, if that's something that feels wrong to yourself, then you need to think about it. One of the things that I try to teach kids: think before you speak. If it tastes nasty, it probably is nasty. So you need to think about it before you say it out of your mouth. That's one of the things that, our youth or anyone needs to really think about, because once you say it, you can't get it back.
Right. Absolutely. And go ahead, Dr. Bell.
And when we think about bullying, people, I believe, they tend to bully when people are different than they are.
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing we have to teach at home, that a difference does not mean something is wrong with anyone. And so we talk, that's a society issue, because I don't walk a certain way, or I don't talk a certain way, or I don't act a certain way. That does not give you pause to bully me. But that goes back to the environment. And so if I see a man who may have female ways, does that give you the right to bully me because I'm different? Because I have a disability, does that give you a right to bully me because I'm different? And so it's all about how we label other people and how society, and we teach that labeling, and kids and adults embrace it.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break right now, but our number, 757-823-9110. We're talking about bullying and children on Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about bullying and children, and most importantly, what we can do about it. On the line, we have Ms. Shantae Miller. She's the founder and CEO of Parents Against Bullying Virginia, and Dr. Ed Bell, who is a parent educator and formerly a licensed school counselor. Now, before the break, Ms. Miller and Dr. Bell, we were talking about being different. I asked the question, what can cause a child to become a bully, and what can cause a child to be bullied? And Dr. Bell, you were talking about how there obviously are differences among all of us, and how a child, no matter what, even if they are different, I'll put that even in air quotes, different, that they obviously don't deserve the right to be bullied. Now, Ms. Miller, I'm going to ask you, LGBTQ students, some of my research says that they're a little more susceptible to bullying. Have you found that to be the case, or any particular type of child that might be bullied a little bit more? And again, I know that's a very broad question.
Yes, absolutely. Parents Against Bullying, we do a school tour, and we have mentoring group, Girl Talk and Gent Talk. And during this, we have a specific section and also a theme song, I'm Different and I Like It. So we push to make sure that our youth know, or even from the smallest, when we go into the elementary schools, that it's okay to be different. Everyone is different. No one is the same. And we have to continue to empower our children and plant that in them, that please do not think that it's okay to bully someone or to be mean to someone or do things to someone because they are different. And yes, social media and the reality shows have now show that, that it's okay to be that way. And our kids think that that's okay, even though it's TV or, different things on the social media platforms. So yes, I see that a lot in the LGBT community. I see it a lot with our special needs. I see it a lot with ones that may not have the same things that someone else has, meaning like clothes or brands or things of that nature. And we talk about that in our curriculum with Parents Against Bullying. We continuously teach on that because it is important to know everyone is different. Be different and like it.
It's interesting that you say that in terms of media. We see that, as you say, with some of the reality shows, the whole genre of the housewives, they're called the famous screaming and hollering and pulling their hair and talking about each other. And then we've seen that, really in our society politically and so forth.
Yes.
And so it is such a challenge for our kids to think one way, and yet they see something else. And that is a concern. That really is a concern. So as a mother, you probably were always, but even more so became an advocate for your daughter and the school system. Why is that so important, to be an advocate, to be there for your child, to talk to the teachers, the administrators, the principal? Why is that a critical piece to this conversation today?
It's very important to advocate for your child or for children, period, or for anyone that don't have a voice. I always say, I'll be the voice and teach you how to have a voice, but if you're voiceless, I will be that voice for you. Because of the fact that we have to. Our youth, our children don't go into the school and aren't able to advocate for themselves.
They're not.
We have to teach them how to advocate for themselves until they finish with high school and then on to college. And that's what I have hope and pray that I've done for my children and for other children. But until then, you have to be that voice for the voiceless, because at that point, they're voiceless.
Right. They're absolutely voiceless. Now, Dr. Bell, you're a parent educator. Can you tell us what that means before I ask you the question in terms of this that piece of your bio?
Okay, what I do as a parent educator is to work with parents in groups or individually to educate and to share different ways in parenting and training their children by rethinking the things that have always that they always thought about as a parent. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually one who would challenge a parent's thinking.
From what to what? Challenge their thinking.
Because we all have an idea of how we should or shouldn't parent, mm-hmm. or if there's a recipe for parenting. And I always challenge there's no such thing as a recipe for parenting. Mm-hmm. So when I go into a session, I begin the session by saying, I am here to disturb your thinking. Because you were parent this way by Big Mama as growing up doesn't mean that was the right way or the correct way to parents. So we have to rethink those things that was taught to us, just as I was talking about with the bullying and the cookouts with the family reunion. Mm-hmm. So all that teasing and picking at people is not good, is not wholesome. So we have to rethink those small situations that can feed into a child bullying someone who is different, because there are some cultural causes of bullying, and most time it starts in the home.
Absolutely.
So when you say cultural differences, some cultural aspects, meaning if they're African American or Caucasian or Asian?
No, I can only speak from my life as growing up as an African American male. Mm-hmm. So what I see and what I have saw when you do have those gatherings, you do see that picking and that teasing and they calling out those who may be different.
Right.
And so that's bullying. And so if a child is fed that all their life, grew up and ate that type of cultural nuance, so now they become a young adult. And so it's okay for me to pick at someone or tease someone who was different.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, do parents at some point contribute to bullying? And so that's something we have to wrestle with, because I don't think a child wakes up one morning or come out the womb and decides to bully.
It's a learned behavior.
Miss Miller, that's a compelling thought. Let me give our number first. 757-823-9110. 823-9110. We're talking about children and bullying, and we have Miss Shantae Miller and Dr. Ed Bell on the line. So, Miss Miller, we teach our children how to bully, or they observe us, and that's where it comes from, some of it?
You're definitely not born a bully.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a learned behavior. It's things that they pick up from wherever, whether it's inside the home, whether it's outside the home, whether it's in their neighborhood, whether it's at the community center, whether it's wherever they may be, they're picking this up. And hurt people. So like the doctor said earlier, one of the things I wanted to piggyback off of before I forget that train of thought was I so love the way that you do start off your sessions, because there is no book of parenting. And then the other piece is it's not, like I said, we're not born a bully. That is a learned behavior. That's something that they pick up. That's something that they see. That's something that they're hearing. And they don't know what to do with it, especially when they're young.
Right.
And if they're hurting and someone's hurting them, or they're hurting in some shape, form, or fashion, they're going to lash out at someone else. And they're looking for attention. They're looking for, to fit in. That's some of the things that the children will also tell you. Some will admit they're looking to fit in. So they want to do these things. They want to take the hurt off of them and put it on someone else.
So a person who perhaps had been bullied at one time from somewhere in their life or family, many times they, again, and I think one of you said this, they will project this behavior, almost self-hatred or self-loathing. It seems that might seem a little extreme to say it that way, but there is some sort of pain or self-esteem issues going on, and they want to project that onto someone else, and that is that's dangerous almost. That's scary to me to hear that. I
can only talk about from the situation with my daughter and her bully. When we did go to court on that side of things, it was a environmental thing. It was something that was from the home. So it was we knew it off the back, but just looking into more of as we went back and forth to court and learned more about that structure, it was from the home. And a lot of times bullying does start right in the home. Parents can be bullies. Years and years ago, we didn't even live in this area, but there were some little kids we lived in up the hill in a cul-de-sac, and so there were some children that would play in the street all the time, and you try to drive very slowly up the street, they jump in front of your car and they make hand signs and this and so forth. And I thought, oh wow, this is terrible, let me go talk to their mother. Now I assumed that their mother would say, oh, I am so sorry that my two little boys are doing that. I'm going to tell them not to do that. That's what I assumed in my naive rainbow and butterfly days. However, the mother said, you must be driving. Don't you come in here telling me how to raise my children. Right. You are the one coming up and down this street. If my boys want to play like that, they can. Don't you ever come to my house again. And I thought, okay, I got it now. I got it. Right. So it didn't surprise me after that when I saw those little boys, because their mother was just like them. So I can completely understand what you're saying. So it really, really can be environmental. 757-823-9110 is the number to call. 757-823-9110. Give us a call. Were you in a situation when you were a student in school that you were bullied? What about as
an adult, because as you mentioned, Dr. Bell, of course, adults can be bullied as well. And tell us any resources that you have available. 757-823-9110. We're talking about children and bullying. So that environmental factor is so important. And we see, as we mentioned before, the media and also being an advocate for your child. So what can we do about that, though? We're going to take a break in a couple of minutes. But Miss Miller, how did that play out with I know you had mentioned that you've gone to court with the young lady. The outcome for something like that would be that she would be taken out of the school system, or she would have to go and be homeschooled, or did you take your daughter out of the school system?
You want me to answer now when we come back from break?
No, you can answer that part of that now, Ms. Miller.
Okay. No, I switched schools eventually, and it does depend on if the child has ever been in trouble with the court systems before or not, depending on what they will receive as far as their punishment. I hate to use punishment, but that's what it is. So this child only received 2 years probation with no contact with my daughter, which she did contact her before that time, and she still just got a slap on the wrist. So there was really nothing done about it.
Wow.
And these kids know, they know what, if they hit above the waist up, you receive one, this. If you hit the waist down, you receive something else. So they know the punishment, and that's like a broad thing, that's not the specifics, but these kids know the laws. These kids know what to do. They know a lot more than we think they know.
That's amazing. 757-823-9110. We're talking about children and bullying on Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices. Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Hampton Roads Voices. Let me give the number to you, 757-823-9110. We love to hear from you, your experiences in terms of bullying. Has the media played a broad part in this? What about our political system, and what about environments in terms of how a child is raised and what he or she sees in the home? 757-823-9110 is the number to call. We're talking about children and bullying. We have still on the line with us Ms. Shantae Miller. She's the founder and CEO of Parents Against Bullying Virginia, and Dr. Ed Bell, a parent educator. So we have been talking about being an advocate and so forth. But Ms. Miller, I'll start with you. What can a teacher or administrator or a counselor do when they suspect a child is being bullied?
Just from doing this for the last 6.5 years, the first thing that I would say is that I really pray that they will get more training, because they have to know what to look for, what to do with it, and how to address it. And if you don't know those things, then they're going to continue to just sweep it under the rug, or say, don't tattle, or just say, don't worry about it, or what have you. And that's what's happening right now. And I can't really blame everyone, because if they're not trained on those things, because they have a lot that they have to do. And I'm not saying, pushing it aside, but they really need training so they can know what the signs are, what to do with it, how to address it, and how to handle it.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. I almost wanted to say when you said when they see it or identify it, but when we mentioned before, there's verbal bullying, social bullying, then there's the physical bullying that happened very directly to your daughter, and the cyber bullying. Sometimes they may not see that other stuff. They may not, the child may, they may be talked to in a certain way or bullied in a certain way, not in front of the teacher. So those kinds of things may not be seen by an administrator or an adult there in the school. So it is important. I agree with you in terms of getting even more training than perhaps they already have. Dr. Bell, what can administrator? You were a licensed school counselor. What can they do? What could you do?
Well, yes, I was a middle school counselor some years ago, and still licensed. But as I reflect back on my training as becoming a school counselor, there was no such classes or of training, although that was decades ago. Right. And so, but the thing that I've learned, and as I confronted with bullies and those who were bullied as a school counselor, is to bring both parties together separately. And that seemed to work most of the time, because one thing I realized about the person who was doing the bullying is if it was about power, it was about domination and control of the person. Because everyone wants to be in control, because though if I can control your actions and can control you, then I have power over how you're going to respond. And so that's how I will always approach those who are doing the bullying, is that person wanted power and control over a situation. Mm-hmm. And then you dig deeper, it ties, from my experience, it always tied back to the home environment. Mm-hmm. And so, but at the same time, for that person who's being victimized by the bullying, I always just encourage them to always to tell it, always to report it, and to give them solutions, if possible, to empower them. And it's to tell. You have to tell, and sometimes kids tell, and nothing happens.
That's hard, though, to say.
It is.
Because
it's very hard, and as my colleague mentioned earlier, your child go through all of this and go through all of this, and then nothing happens.
And then they're worse off, perhaps.
Well, I told it.
Right.
Yep.
And nothing happens.
Or maybe something more happened is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now it's worse for telling.
Yeah, so it's to tell, to report, and if possible, remove from the situation. And some parents can't remove their child from the situation. And so just imagine a child entering a space, and they have to go into this space every day, every single day, to be bullied. And they tell, and no one listens. Yeah. And so we know what can happen.
Definitely.
As a result of no one listening. It could be suicide, or it could be that victim victimizing other people as well, because you're not listening to me. So some consequences to bullying, especially when the victim feels as though he or she is not being heard. But I think the biggest weapon to weaponize against it is those who have been victim, is to have those concerned parents and those adults in their lives to talk and to process with. That is key. But just imagine those kids who have been bullied and didn't have a safe place or a safe person,
right,
to advocate and to go to.
I'm going to push a little bit here, Dr. Bell, and Ms. Miller, you jump in as well. Okay, I want to say that it sounds like a wonderful idea to say, okay, well, we're going to bring those parents in, the bully's parents or mom or grandma, whoever that person is, and the person who has been bullied, and we're going to bring them in, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. But what if it is a case, like I gave you that example when my children were very little, and that parent says, I don't see what's the problem. I don't see, my kid didn't do that. That's not the child that I have, because that child could be a different person, or maybe that's just how he or she was raised. So I'm pushing back just a little bit to see, to ask the question, what if that does not work? Ms. Miller, I'll start with you. What if it doesn't work that simply?
And if it's like in a school setting, I'll use that as an example. That's why we have got to, make sure that we hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. Whether, we have to make sure that we do something about it, because you're going to have a lot of times where you're not going to have families that they're going to be able to sit down and talk about it. I know that my family and the bully of my child, family could not sit down and talk about it because they didn't want to hold responsibility of what their child had done. Mm. So therefore something has got to be in place. Something has got to happen. There's got to be some consequences for what has been done, whether it's on both sides or that one side. So that's where we have to make sure that those things happen. That's why we have to continue to advocate and make sure that those things are in place, and that they make sure that they do something with those things that are in place to make sure that something happens, and we take care of the issue that way. Absolutely.
Dr. Bell, what can happen to a child's self-esteem who's been a victim of bullying?
At the far extreme, death, physically as well as mentally, so that's the reality of it, because that's the reality. That's the far extreme, because we all have a sense of belonging to something or someone. We all have it.
Right.
We all want to belong. We may say differently,
Right.
but we want that.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, if it's not addressed, we know what can happen at the extreme, death, physically or mentally. When the person internally is dead, and the inside we wondering while the student is sitting quietly, coming into the house, goes into the room, constantly cries. Work is failing, not engaging at home, and always want this particular clothing but versus that particular clothing, and changes friends, death, dying.
That's amazing. Let me pause here. We have a caller on the line. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Vincent. I'm calling from Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, Vincent, what is your question or comment, please?
So I wanted to actually make a comment in regards to bullying, and actually, by extension, the high suicide rate of young African American children and just children in general due to bullying. I'm really interested in anthropology, and I want to go to grad school for social cultural anthropology. And I've been learning kind of how, as people, for the greater part of history, we've operated in like communities and groups. Up until recently, when people entering into the work market and workplace, they've started to become more individuals in their actions. So you start moving away from like community-based things to individual individual actions. Now you're seeing, children who are not spending time in like the family unit because the parent figure or parent figures are spending less time at home due to work. And I think that might have a greater part of it. Bullying has always been a thing, but as far as like actually community-based events, we are seeing, starting to see less and less community-oriented things, whether it's people attending religious ceremonies or things such like church or school events and neighborhood cookouts,
right.
Just things in general.
So the community of the community at large, something perhaps is missing, which leaves a void in that child's life. Is that what you're saying, Vincent?
Yes, ma'am. So actually, what really made me think deeper about this is I was just Facebook surfing, and I came across this video of a movie that I gotta watch, and I think it's called Black Girl, and it came out in like the 70s. And from what I've seen, that's a really, really good movie. And you see aspects of bullying in that time period, but also at that same token, we do know that there were more community-based things for people in the community to do. Our parents always say, back in the day, our neighborhood used to walk.
Our neighborhood. Well, Vincent, thank you so much for your call. I'm going to let our two guests answer your concerns and questions. Thank you so much, Vincent, for calling.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller, Vincent says that one of the issues perhaps is that there was more family, there was more community, those kinds of things going on.
Yes, that's the village, and that's one of the things that we talk about as well is trying to build the village back. It's very hard. I mean, we don't see that anymore. Our parents are younger. We have babies raising babies. We don't have the big moms like Doctor has said earlier. So that is a big issue. And a lot of our kids aren't raised in the churches like they were, or in the community centers. Like we used to have very close knit community centers where that was a village as well, very strong. And I know that's one of the areas that I grew up in. So we are missing those things, and those are things that, will we ever see that again? I don't know. Are we working towards it? Yes, we are. There's a lot of amazing organizations, groups, churches, and families that are trying to build the village back. But we've lost a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have another caller on the line. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Jay, and I'm calling from Hampton.
Okay, Jay, what is your question or comment?
Jay.
Okay. What is your question or comment?
Well, I'm an educator, and what I observed in regards to bullying in our schools, enforce certain consequences like out-of-school suspensions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have found in my personal classroom, when I was faced with bullying, teaching children to appreciate everyone's individual differences. Yes, we are all a community, but it takes individuals in that community to make that through. So with that being said, I think exposing our children to people other than who they're always around will help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like the young lady was saying, holding them accountable as well.
Absolutely.
I really am big on that, and I feel like if we can work with our children to teach them different spaces to be respectful, then we won't have to deal with this in such capacity that we're dealing with.
Thank you so much for your call and your comments. I really appreciate that. Thank you again. Our time is a little bit short, but Dr. Bell, she's saying that we're trying to enforce these kinds of things. They're trying to bring back, they're trying to realize and teach that, yes, people are going to be different.
Yes, yes. And people are, and that is, as I said earlier, that is something that we must uplift in our culture and our environment. And here's what I would like to challenge the listeners as well as all of us. The next time you have a family gathering, could be a food fellowship or cookout, whatever it may be, just sit back and watch the dynamics. Watch what is said and watch how it is said and to whom it is said to. Bullying. Mm-hmm. So just do a quick experiment, if you will. And sometimes it may be unintentional, but it hurts.
But it still hurts.
It still hurts. And we do it as a people and as a culture because historically we have always done it.
Absolutely. Dr. Bell, I hate to cut you off, but our time is very short. Can you give us some information as to how we can find you? Any social media, phone numbers, websites? How can we find you, sir?
I am on Facebook as Ed Bell, or my email address is edbell1906@yahoo.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. Miss Miller, how can we find you?
Yes, you can find our website is www.pabva.com. We're also on all social media platforms as Parents Against Bullying Virginia. And our book is located on Amazon.com. It's Let's Push, A Guide to Combating Bullying.
Absolutely. Thank both of you for being here. Again, we've heard from Ms. Shantae Miller, founder and CEO of Parents Against Bullying Virginia, and Dr. Ed Bell, author and parent educator. Thank you both for being on our show with such insights, and we really appreciate it. And for our listeners, we will be right back.
Thank you.
Is Hampton Roads Voices. Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about bullying and children, but we do have some breaking news before we get back to our show. The breaking news is suspect in custody. There is a suspect in custody after the active shooter situation near Virginia Beach City Hall. Now, probably know, and it's an update of that, 4 people were injured, but the latest information is that the suspect is in custody after the active shooting, and that situation was near Virginia Beach City Hall, and we'll keep you updated as more information comes in. So going back to our topic, children and bullying, we have on the line now Dr. M. Julius Hayes. He is with the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development, and he is a positive, disciplined parent educator. He is on the line. Dr. Hayes, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adams, for sharing your listening audience.
Absolutely. I want to give our listeners the number to call in, 757-823-9110. Are you an advocate for your child in the school system or any other venue or situation? What resources have you used or techniques have you used in terms of building your child's self-esteem if they have been in a situation of bullying, and any resources that you might have at your fingertips? 757-823-9110. So, Dr. Hayes, tell us about the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development.
The Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development is an enrichment program, actually a collaborative gifts ministry. And what that is, we work with 5 cornerstones: education, encouragement, empowerment, inspiration, and support. Serving as advocates and ombudsmen, meaning a connection between the home and the school and any place where our youngsters have to go if they get misplaced from their school. Mm-hmm. We've been in existence since 1997, starting with my son. He was a student there in Virginia Beach, and he fell in line with some unusual difficulties. And since that time, we've been able to work together with other parents across the state and this nation to help them understand the very importance of working with their children and understanding what we need to do as guardians and parents.
Very interesting. And so what programs, so those are the programs that you have there. Now, we have in the first hour, of course, we talked about some aspects of bullying. How, in your opinion, does bullying affect a child's self-esteem? Now, we know that the research tells us there are different types of bullying: verbal bullying, social bullying, physical bullying, and then, of course, cyber bullying, which is so ominous these days. So give us your opinion, and then we'll go to the line. Give us your opinion on how does this affect a child's self-esteem?
Well, when we take a look at the affect, we talk about self-worth. It's very, very hard for individuals when they're being picked on continuously and they don't know how to handle being picked on. You know, you have persons that will call you names, and then when they call you names, they act upon that with physical violence. And we're seeing this not just amongst young people. We're seeing actually some of the parents that get involved with the bullying because of what's going on with their children, which is really unacceptable. I'm a baby boomer. Being a baby boomer, I recognize the Gen Xers, Generation X, and I recognize the millennials and now the youngsters that we call the Z generation, born after 2001. I find that they don't know how to talk because they're into this technology, and the least little thing activates them to go into another area to take advantage of other people.
Dr. Hayes, I'm going to have you pause here for just a second so we can take this call. Caller, you're live on the air. Nope. All right. So you can give us a call if that line was dropped. Call us at 757-823-9110. Dr. Hayes, continue, please.
So again, and then the bullying turns into what we call negative work and violence. And we're seeing too much of that violence now. And as I tell my young people and others, it's too late once the chalk goes down. And what I mean by that, we have to work with our youngsters every single day. And it is a task because so many of them live in what I call a traumatized environment in their home and in their community. And then people are afraid to even say things to them. So when they get into a particular issue, it's hard for them because no one has really been able to work with them to help them understand. We had bullying a long time ago, but it was different in our generation. Now this generation, they want to go straight to what I call the jugular. They want to go right where everything hurts. And because they don't know how to deal with that emotion known as anger, they continue to bully and bully and bully until it wipes us out.
Amazing. So when we talk about cyberbullying, of course, through electronics and social media and text messages, chat rooms, websites, I think that factor is so important. And I want you to speak to that type of bullying, because what the research is saying out there is that perhaps in times past, when a person was bullied, then they went home and they didn't have to see that child anymore. But with cyberbullying, it's in the school, and then it's on their smartphone on the bus or the walk home, and then it's on their tablet when they get home, and then it's shared with many, many other people, and so it goes on and on and on, almost nonstop.
Well, that's a truth right there. I was just approached today with a situation in a high school where a young lady, her mother is deceased, and someone got on Snapchat and started talking about how they were going to punch her in the face. they put these emotions on, and then other persons feed off of that. And because they can't see you, those emotions go haywire. And before you know it, you have a combustion of all these negative attitudes in people. They don't know one another, and they don't realize the affect and the effect that it's taking on individuals. They don't see them, no ma'am. But they can touch these buttons, and they can put their emotions on there, and they become angrier because, again, they don't know how to let that stuff go and move on.
Absolutely.
They act on it. And then when they act on it, it's a bit too late because that's where the violence comes in, and we lose folks.
We lose folks. Now, do you think bullying is more prevalent in elementary, middle, or high school, or is it pretty much the same across the board? What have you seen?
I believe it's across the board. I believe it starts at a very young age now. Believe me, it does. At a very young age. And that's because young people today have access to these devices. They have older persons that, when I say older, they have adolescents that actually feed into that. And they actually are training them. I call them trainers because, again, they don't know themselves what to do. So it's across the board. And it is significantly worse in some of the higher grades, like high school, because, again, they don't know how to accept correction. They don't know how to bring up their feelings, even with all the resources that we have. We have some of the greatest resources within our community, within our behavioral health and mental health services, within our faith-based organizations. And most of the parents, when they see things happening with children, they get involved with it. And again, it makes it worse.
It can make it worse. Now, we have a caller on the line. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please? And where are you calling from? Caller, are you there?
Virginia.
No. Yes, you're calling from Norfolk. And what is your name, please?
Darrell.
Darrell, what is your question or comment?
I was calling in regards to the bullying, just giving some reference, some feedback. I'm also a Norfolk Public School teacher, and I was just giving some reference to bullying. And the concept behind bullying is really coming from today's society and what our expectations are for our children and what they see is set in the house, which is causing them to be able to say, hey, well, I want to be like this for individual. I want to be like that individual instead of being who they are. And that's one of my biggest issues that I see in my classroom setting. They want to be, I don't want to be like this person. I don't want to be like this person. I'm going to be better than this person. So I'm going to fight this person just because I'm going to show that I'm bigger than them.
Wow.
And that's one concept that I really see today's society set them in the zone of, are you better than this person than your next person? Instead of helping thy neighbor, are you better than thy neighbor? So if you're not better than the neighbor, hey, I need to beat the neighbor.
But how do you teach your children or your students, or how does another teacher, counselor, principal, or someone like that teach that child that, and we mentioned this in our first hour, that it's okay to be different, it's okay. Is that possible to teach them that you don't have to find your self-esteem by trying to be better and trying to beat someone?
It is possible, and I would say it's possible because when we have the students approximately 9 hours out the day,
right,
we have to set that environment. We're creating that environment in our classroom of showing them how to build their self-esteem and how to love themselves and how to love their classmates and how to show the respect to each other. But once they leave us, all that get washed out once again, like going into an environment which is at home or in their communities, that influencing them like, no, you need to be doing it this way, or no, you need to be doing it that way. And we coming back and we starting back at ground zero again. So this is a touchy topic that really needs to be really more of a community all involvement instead of just the teacher focus or the parent focus. We have to go back to that community. Right. We have to stand together as a community and really respect each other and help each other and not trying to, challenge each other to be better than each other.
It's a village. It's that village principle that it takes all aspects and parts of this child's life for it to work. Darrell, thank you so much for your insights. I really appreciate you calling.
Thank you.
Dr. Hayes, Darrell, Norfolk Public School teacher, says that it's ground zero again. Okay, they go to school and we say, yes, you can do it, you can make it, and then they go home, it's something different, or they're walking in their community and they find something different, or a different language or something. How do we combat that, or how do we combine the elements to make it work as a whole, as a community, as a village?
Well, first of all, the caller, I concur with him. You know, we work every single day, and we go every single day back into classrooms, etc. And when we go back, what we've done the day before, in many instances, it's sabotaged.
Mm-hmm.
Sabotaged because the persons that are within that environment, they themselves have particular issues that they're not addressing. And they look to the public school, which is not a babysitting service. It's an educational milieu where there are rules that are in place, and they don't know how to follow the rules because, again, they come up against that in a classroom, and teachers who are teaching, especially, they have a very hard task because they have a discipline that they're teaching, but they're also teaching the fact how you should respect, how you should speak, how you should do that. So I, again, think that we must have the community, because we can't even spell community without unity. There's no big U, no little I. We all have to come to the table because we are losing too many family members based on bullying and how it escalates in other areas. We cannot just look to one place. We have to look at the home especially, because that is the environment. We have to look to the neighbor, but the neighbor is afraid because of what they see every single day with some of the youngsters. They can't talk to individuals because if you say something to their child, then they themselves get beat up. When they go into the school, you see the principal being attacked and individuals when you're trying to address students. So yes, ma'am. How do we do it? Coming together, dealing with what we know works. First of all, respect is automatic. But how do you respect? Being able to lower your tone and have a conversation and do what we do by example, because we have a duty as seniors, we have a duty as elders, we have a duty as individuals to do some what I call generative mentorship. My generation, I'm a baby boomer, but I have to respect the Generation X. I have to respect the millennial. I have to respect them. But the only way that they're going to gain my respect is by my duty that I have, that I remain consistent every single day. I can't go off myself
and expect them to do that. Dr. Hayes, I want you to hold that thought. 757-823-9110 is the number to call. We're talking about children and bullying on Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
If you're just joining us, this is Hampton Roads Voices, and today our topic is bullying in children and what we can do about it. We have our guest on the line, Dr. M. Julius Hayes. He's with the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development, and also he is a positive, disciplined parent educator. Thank you so much again, Dr. Hayes, for being with us today.
And of course, it's always my pleasure. I enjoy everything that I hear, and most importantly, I respect the spirit that comes through with the frequency of how you do it every Friday.
Well, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that. And for our callers, let me give you the number, 757-823-9110. 757-823-9110. What do you think in terms of resources to help parents, educators, administrators help with the bullying problem? The whole notion of cyberbullying, has that affected you, your child, your family? Give us a call, 757-823-9110. So, Dr. Hayes, before we took a break, you were talking about the notion, and our caller had said this, in terms of they teach the child in school one way, and then perhaps in the home, they're taught another way, and then in their community, they're taught another way. And you were talking about how important unity is. Would you continue with that, please?
I sure will. I'm reminded even on last evening, I was with a group of parents in Portsmouth at an elementary school, and they have a family engagement person there that did an awful lot of work to get parents to come, and we can't get parents to come, and I have to be a realist because that's what I am, unless we are feeding them.
Mm-hmm. True.
They don't want to come unless they're going to get a sandwich or cup of tea. They don't want the information. And that's an area for me that I'm very concerned about because, again, if we don't come together to have this conversation, if we don't come together realistically, and as I mentioned before, once that chalk goes down, it's too late. Now, the chalk can be a demise, which we really don't want through violence, and or it could be going before a person because you've done something that you really did not want to do because you were bullying someone and it went into an angry episode. So what can we do? The principals and all the individuals that work have to work together. The school has to have individuals that really understand the social aspect of what's going on with our children when they come into the classroom. They have to understand that trauma that they're going through. They can't fix everything, but if you bring in the right resources to help you in the school, I believe it can work. Why do I believe that? Because I see it being done in particular areas of which I am a part of, and I don't want to call the cities out, but I will say Portsmouth, Norfolk, and even Virginia Beach. But you have to have that relationship so that it's not that you are lecturing to the adults to help their children, but that you're on the same page having a conversation. Because I really don't believe that a parent really wants their child to be negative. I really believe that they don't. But in certain instances, they don't know how to display that because they're going through so much frustration every single day. So the unity is not there.
So how can a relationship be established between the parent and the school, between the parent and the teacher? How can we do that?
Very easy. When you go into the school, that person is a human being just like the parent. We cannot judge our parents. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the parent, if they have frustration, they cannot go in yelling and hooping and hollering. They have to make sure that they maintain their cool. And if they need someone to stand beside them, that person needs to come in with supportive presence positively, not negatively. And the only way that you can do that, you have to get to know the person before you can even engage. But respect is automatic. You must respect the fact of their position and their title. And again, I'll go this way. Just because you are in the school, that does not mean that you're really above, because every parent, I believe, wants the right thing for their children. And then there are some who just want to go astray and do what they do. So how do you do it? Come together on a neutral ground. If it's negative, we want to change the negativity into positivity. And in doing that, you have to know how to talk one with the other.
As I was preparing for this show, I came across a concept. It's called safe schools. And I just want to read this little part to you. It says that in our system, we believe that all students and school employees have the right to feel safe in their educational environment or workplace, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. And so I believe that that whole notion, as you talked about relationships between parents and schools and don't judge and have respect and so forth, I believe that that could create an environment where it's healthier for that child and perhaps can create this safe school concept. Tell us a little bit about that just the feeling, the environment that you hope for a child when they go in and out of school.
Well, the first thing I look at, it's not just physical safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's psychological and emotional safety. And what I mean by that, sometimes, not all the time, when you have a relationship, let's say there's a young man or young lady that's continuously getting into trouble. I call them the serial person. We have to watch our tone. We say one thing, but yet we do another thing,
mm-hmm.
and it just builds upon the negative, and we really don't do anything to correct that. So to be safe, it's not just physical. You have to have it psychologically, and you have to have it emotionally. Because many of the individuals with that anger emotion, that's what we're dealing with. They don't know how to address it.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot just do a clinical conversation. We have to sit down and actually ask particular questions to get the truth from an individual so that we can work with them. So, to be safe, it has to be safe psychologically, emotionally, and physically. And then from the social aspect, we have to make sure that we're safe when we go into particular environments to address what they're going through on the street.
I think that's important, but I want to go back to one point, one piece of this that you just mentioned, and that is if a teacher or maybe even another student sees that this child seems to be becoming more agitated, and you see it escalating, that it could possibly boil over and turn into violence, what should be done before it gets to that point? Should they go into counseling?
There are signals that come up. And when those signals come up, we have to know how to approach that individual and talk to them and tell them that they are resilient. That there's going to be some bounce back. We all go through particular issues. We have to be able to help them by way of talking to them. And in talking to them, we have to then pull upon those individuals that can also come alongside us to support that with their presence, with what they do. And that becomes a community effort in terms of, let's say, someone who's doing a school-linked service in terms of behavioral and mental health. Let's say that there's someone like a rabbi or an imam or a pastor in the faith-based community. We all have to come together with that individual and share what we know about that, so that one way or the other, it should escalate to something positive as opposed to being negative. And it's steps that you have to take. And even the adults themselves, they have to be willing to stay in their lane, stay in their place, and have a real relationship that will help young people so that they can be those persons in the community that will make contributions and not take away from our community.
I think it's important that you make mention of this, because I know, we're saying parent, but if the parent is not there, available physically, emotionally, spiritually, what have you, then there are other people who hopefully can be an advocate for this child, whether it's a coach or a spiritual leader or a neighbor or someone that perhaps can become the voice or an advocate for that child. That can be challenging, I'm sure. But in the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development, is that something that you teach to the parents or to community leaders? How does that work with the Academy?
Well, one of the things, we come with what we call voice scholarship. And what is voice scholarship? Voice scholarship, we share our experiences. We share our experiences parent to parent, grandparent to parent. We share them, and we do activities and hands-on exercises because we're learning one from the other. We learn just as much from the young people as they learn from us, but they have to be willing. Sometimes it's a challenge, but I've learned if you're not going to stay committed to it, don't sell them a dream that will become a nightmare for them.
Wow. You
have to be consistent. You have to be with them. If they're wrong, you have to correct them. And even sometimes if the adult should make a mistake, the adult has to be willing to say, I made a mistake. I apologize.
And so then that part is so important, as you're saying, that we have that conversation. Our number is 757-823-9110. We're talking about bullying and having a safe space for our children, and know that it really is the village concept, that it takes a village. How have you interacted with your child in your child's school, with the administrators? Have you had a situation where there was bullying at all? And we'll get back in just a moment. 757-823-9110. This is Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
If you're just joining us, welcome. I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we've been talking about bullying and children and what we can do about it. Now, we know bullying is a negative behavior, and it's intended really to frighten or cause harm, and it could be verbal or written or physical. And we know there's cyberbullying and there's physical bullying and verbal. And so this is such an important topic, and all this month we've been talking about different aspects of parenting and raising children. So we want to hear from you. 757 757-823-9110. Do you have any experience in anyone in your family or your child being bullied? What have you done in terms of being an advocate for your child and working with the school system? 757-823-9110. On the line, we still have Dr. M. Julius Hayes. He is with the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development and a positive disciplined parent educator. Thank you so much again for being here, sir.
Again, I thank you for having me.
Now, tell us a little bit about what a positive disciplined parent educator is.
A positive disciplined parent educator is someone that provides existential activities experimentally. We don't lecture. We work with hands-on, minds-on activities, learning from each other to change the negative into the positive. Mm-hmm. The positive discipline movement began with Dr. Jane Nelson, and it is a research-based movement where continuously we work with understanding scientifically what goes on within the brain and how individuals want to belong, because children come here hardwired. And there are three things that we always have to look at. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? And what is our decision? So developmentally, we have to start from the cradle up. Actually, it needs to start while the child is still within that womb, because once they come out into the environment, there are persons there that need to understand them. We cannot talk to our 5-year-old like we talk to our adolescent. And in too many circles, we're doing a lot of yelling and screaming. I personally have had to learn the importance of this, having all of the children that I personally have. It has been such a reward for me to use the tools and the techniques that I have been taught and trained to use within my area of expertise. It makes it very, very plain. It makes it very poignant, and it puts you on point so that you don't point fingers at individuals. You take your hand and you put it out and say, what can I do to help? Because you're going to like what you're getting.
So you said that we all want to belong, and thinking, feeling, and making a decision. So in the Saturday Academy, or at the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development, do you have particular programs or sessions that address these types of things to teach others?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. We meet every fourth Saturday in Portsmouth at the Living Word Victory Center for about an hour and a half, where we come together in fellowship, relationship, courtship, all of the ships, which we call the parent ship. Mm-hmm. And in that ship, again, we have persons from the community. We may have educators. We may have lawyers. We may have doctors. And everyone is on the same page. It's no big I, no little you. It's coming together to give you what we understand, where we are, and how we can put what we have positively into practice as a unit of friendship, a unit of relationship. So every fourth Saturday, we come together. And in doing that, persons don't have to be referred. They want to come because they like the spirit and the attitude of the individuals. We would even have a person such as yourself to come in to talk about those things that you know work best within your experience. Because I've learned there is no expert in this, but we are all experts within our own experiences, negative and positive. But more importantly, we want them to be positive.
So the entire notion is to make it positive, this positive movement. 823-9110 is the number to call, 757-823-9110. Do you have a question for our guest, Dr. Hayes, about anything that we've talked about? Again, we're talking about bullying and children, 757-823-9110. Go ahead and continue, Dr. Hayes. I'm sorry, I had to cut you off for a second.
Well, so again, that's what it is. So my question also, whenever I begin to talk with parents, what is it that they know that they need to change, or what is it that they want to change in terms of dealing with their children? What are some of the things that they want to change? And we'll find that many of the parents, they don't know how to ask for help, but once they see that you're willing and you're committed and you're down to earth, for instance, they'll hear Dr. Hayes. Dr. Hayes is good. That's the title. That's what I've earned. But I have to come as Mark Julius Hayes, and address it from that point, especially when it comes to the fathers. A lot of fathers don't trust what persons are saying.
I think we're having a little bit of a difficulty. Dr. Hayes, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, good. We couldn't hear you as well. And so you're saying that you ask the parent, what do they want to change? How, in their child, how do they identify that? Even if it's a parent who's not in a particular program, but they see some things in their child that they want changed.
Well, first of all, they always would ask me, especially because they see how I handle myself. I'm always down to earth. Like, Doc, how do you do this? First of all, I can't deal with any aggression. I can't deal with disrespect. And I'm learning what disrespect means to a lot of people. It's not the same thing. I've had to learn how to just do me, and in doing me, when I'm providing someone with the discipline and I'm providing them with some things that they need, they'll say, okay, Doc, wow, how did you do that? Just being myself. Just being myself, looking that youngster in the eye and speaking to them and saying, but you can't do this. You should not be doing this or that. And they understand that and they respect that.
So teaching respect to the parent and or the guardian or the community person and so forth. And when you were saying that the people that come into the academy, I found a link. I was thinking about a link in terms of if we teach our children on this level, whether it's elementary school, middle school, or high school, then they don't have to find themselves, don't have to find themselves in those other situations with the lawyers, in front of the judge, in the court, perhaps in jail or being incarcerated. And so there's a connection there when you're saying that you bring our community together to have this conversation.
This is true. And, you know, I'm just delighted to be able to have what I have in terms of what I do with my own children personally. I treat all of the children that I work with as though they're my own children.
Wow.
I treat them as though they're my own children. And in treating them as they're my own children, I make sure that I get it together. And they respect that for me because I treat them that way. I won't disrespect any child at any given time. I will always make sure that they're in place. And I will correct their parents, too. See, you're hearing some noise. I'm sorry. You shouldn't hear that noise. That was the family.
That's okay. Hello, family.
I say to them, recognize that we're all family members. Recognize that. Recognize that. Recognize that. And that's what they love. They love that you can just get right down to it and talk to them as though they're in your family. And they really are in our family. All of the children.
So, Dr. Hayes, what can we do? How can we rebuild the self-esteem? How can we rebuild the confidence of a child who has been bullied? And maybe it's been over a period of time, over years, through elementary school, maybe into middle school. How can we restore that child?
That's where we pull on the resources in the community.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of excellent community-based services. I know of many of them, starting with the GYGs. We have individuals, that's just to call their name out. We have the Agapes. We have individuals from services that really work. But what happens a lot of times, persons don't know how to get in connection with them immediately. And when they do, it takes time for them to start sharing those things. And sometimes, if a person doesn't have a skill, it takes even longer for that. But if the right connection is made, we can start pulling things from youngsters, and they will begin to become healthier.
Would you recommend to tell a parent, or suggest, I should say, to a parent, even any type of therapy or anything like that for a child who has been bullied on any level? Because we know, as you mentioned before, and we've heard these stories over and over again recently, children are committing suicide that if they've been bullied for so long. Would you recommend therapy? What would you say to that parent that says, I don't even know what to do? I don't know what to do?
Well, first of all, there's a trust factor. We have to trust who's speaking to us. And the recommendations that people make, they have to know that that's going to be a connection that can possibly work. So my recommendation is for parents to reach up first before they reach out. When I say reach up, take a look up. Look up high to see how high they can go in terms of pulling down those particular things that they need to understand with what's going on with their child. And when a recommendation is made, they have to trust what's going on. And it takes a moment for that because you have to know how to build a relationship, get a rapport before you just start doing things. So I would recommend, and it's always my recommendation, to know who you're getting your information from. I recommend getting with real people who know how to make it plain to you, that have a skill base, first of all, to communicate. Secondly, to work with you continuously until that breakthrough comes.
Until that breakthrough comes. I think that's very important. Dr. Hayes, we have some breaking news I need to tell our listeners. Virginia Beach shooting, 12 people, unfortunately, are dead, and it includes the suspect, and 6 are injured. There's a live situation, an active situation going on right now. And then Virginia Beach, there has been a shooting. 12 are dead, confirmed dead, including the suspect, and 6 are injured. Now, this is an ongoing situation. We will keep you updated as more information comes along. Dr. Hayes, thank you so much for waiting for that. We just needed to update our listeners.
Well, you know, with you saying that, my prayers go with the family, and I look at this. My wife works in that same area where these shootings took place.
Really?
My wife would have been in that area tonight.
Wow.
As a parent. But her son is having his prom tonight. And at the last moment, she chose to leave at 3 o'clock. My wife would have been in the midst of all of that.
My goodness.
So for me right now, in hearing that, I'm so grateful to my Creator, who made a way for this parent to be able to be here tonight for her son. I can't even imagine the devastation that would have had on my son if something would have happened to his mother.
And that's where that village is, why it's so important. We only have a couple of minutes, Dr. Hayes. Can you encourage the parent that's listening today? Maybe their child has been in a situation of being bullied, or maybe they have come to realize that there needs to be change in their own child. Perhaps that child has been a bully. Can you encourage them and give them some direction in our last minute or so?
Certainly. First of all, there is hope. There is hope. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to sit back and relax and be willing to let someone aid and assist you. If there are things that you're going through, I want to encourage you by giving you what I know that works best. That's respect. That's love. And love is something that you do by duty. It's something that when I take a look at the community in terms of giving encouragement, you can't just talk it, you have to walk it. You have to walk it no matter where it is. If the child is so low down, they're not that low down that we cannot help them, but you have to be willing to allow us to help. And to the seniors and the adults that help, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the new things that are going on, they're new within this time. We can't beat them up. We have to lift them up. We can't beat them up and yell and scream and hoop. We have to encourage them and help them get off of this screen time and get down and listen to what we're saying so that they can hear what we're saying, and we can have an even exchange with a conversation and not just think that we know everything, because some of these young people that are going through things, they're going through things that older persons have put them through continuously. So there is hope and there is encouragement. And I thank you so very, very much for all that you do for allowing individuals to come on and speak up and lift up that name that's better than any name, and that's the name of love.
Thank you so much, sir. Quickly, any contact information, just your social media?
We can be reached at 757-449-5819. It's the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Development. 5 cornerstones: education, encouragement, empowerment, inspiration, and support. And it's not just the support that we give for the games. It's every single day with what we do in life. You can go to our web page, and that is faithhasme.org. That's faithhasme.org. faithhasme.org. We are the Saturday Academy. We are a collaborative gifts ministry. We are a connection that's worked.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hayes. I appreciate you being with us, and I hope your son has a wonderful time at his prom. Thank you again, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Dr. M. Julius Hayes from the Saturday Academy for Positive Self-Esteem, for Self-Development. We thank you so much for being here with us today. Don't forget, we're here every Friday. We're here at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday. We have our rebroadcast on Sunday, 12 noon to 2. Also, don't forget that you can find us online at Hot 91 Online. That's hashtag Hot 91 Online. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also on our YouTube channel, you can hear these shows again and again, but don't forget we rebroadcast every Sunday at 12. If you need to contact me, bkadams@nsu.edu. It's been a pleasure being with you today. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening.